It's a great good fortune to be able to gather like this, you know, in all kinds of ways. And you know, the last 2 years may have reminded us not to take for granted just being in a room with other people, or having that kind of in-person connection with a sense of Sangha. And then, of course, the war unfolding in Ukraine at the moment, which is particularly, I mean, you know, violence and cruelty and just, you know, human ignorance and stupidity and aggression is just playing out constantly in various ways. And so is human creativity and kindness and love and generosity and brilliance. And so we find ourselves in this world of, you know, this beautiful and yet troubling world, this kind of world of exquisite possibility and heartbreaking messiness. And because the war in Ukraine is, well, one, it's nearer than some other wars. Two, it's kind of the relentless exposure in the media at the moment. Three, it's, you know, it's particularly kind of sudden and intense and large scale. And, you know, for that and other reasons, you know, that may be a lot, that also in your consciousness these days. And it's not that I want to keep that out. And when this afternoon we have a little more time for discussions and questions and responses, you know, maybe if that whole situation is alive a lot in your heart or mind at the moment, then maybe it'll come up in some way, and that's fine. And until we get there this afternoon, just the encouragement to leave anything and everything else aside. And of course you can't, right? You can't just put something out of your mind. We say that to each other, oh, put it out of your mind. How do you do that? How do you put something out of your mind? But you can make a discernment, right? And it's actually a really important, wise discernment in any situation, right? What is worth engaging with, the stuff that comes to heart and mind, and what is worth just consciously keeping, leaving alone, or disengaging from. What can I do about anything? And then the engagement to the sense of engagement with that. And equally, what can't I do? Really important. Because we can get pulled into the drama, right? And then, you know, sort of emotionally flooded, you know, mentally agitated, in a way that's not contributing anything to anything we can do about anything, but is just getting pulled into the drama. Not just the drama of the world, in fact, but, you know, our own, if we're honest, sometimes our own need for drama. You know, we're kind of addicted to drama in some ways. If there's something one can do about any particular situation, then showing up there is important. Acting there is important. Responding there is important. But if there's nothing one can do, right, then one has to see, how come I keep going to something about which there's nothing I can do? And that might be just in the, you know, large scale, like some of those threads currently playing out in the world. Or it might be just small scale. We keep repeating a conversation we had yesterday where we felt hurt or misunderstood, or a relationship that's ended. And we just keep going back and wallowing around in it, you know. And of course, going back can be helpful to investigate, to process one's feelings around it. But often one's not processing one's feelings around it. One's just kind of wallowing in the drama. So, don't wallow in your drama. That's good enough teaching for today. Don't wallow in drama. So the title of the day was taken from the title of my book, Awake Where You Are, because that's the only place you can ever be awake, right? That's also in the encouragement to leave aside the wallowing in the drama of the threads of one's life. Right? It's like whatever situations may be going on, personally or professionally or financially or emotionally or situationally or logistically or whatever else. It's like actually the always and only and ever opportunity we have is to take care of this moment. So if we were to really just allow that to be the ground of our day today, this what we call dharma practice, which we could call the training and the art of taking care of this moment, and caring for your mind moment by moment, caring for your nervous system moment by moment, caring for the world by caring for this moment. So caring for the world can have all kinds of different expressions depending on the context. But this is the context for this day. And maybe we might touch the way actually that is, always and only our opportunity to care for the world by caring for this moment. And when we look at the length and depth and breadth of Dharma practice, on the one hand we can see what's often called a path of practice. Right? And we might know from our own your own longevity of practice, the way things transform over time, the way habits get more space around your habits, and learn to put some of them down, get more clarity about the ways in which you get yourself into unnecessary and unhelpful trouble, and to leave those things alone, and get more skillful at recognizing when reactivity happens and not needing to just act it out nor suppress it. And get more understanding of what it is to be human, even though we can never really capture or even fully express that. I get more sense of just how to live more fully and more freely into a human life. How to live more fully and freely into our emotional complexity and our mental brilliance, right? And our physical limitations, and into just the mystery that we're here at all. And maybe, hopefully, especially if you have some longevity of practice, maybe you can recognize those transformational threads over time, deepening of all of those things over time. So there's that dimension of Dharma practice, an unfolding, transformative path of practice. And then there's the other dimension of practice, which is, this is it. This is it. Forget time. There's no time. Nothing unfolds over time. Everything's here, here, here. So how am I here? What's here? Regardless of my issues and complexities and dramas and all the rest, what is it to be awake where we are? To be awake right here. To be awake to this. To this. To this. And so it may be that whatever degree of awakeness, or presence, or mindfulness, what kind of word you want to use, we can find or summon or cultivate in this moment, is being met through some layers of not yet understood material or fears or defensiveness or whatever. And yet still, it's like best chance, the only chance, the always available chance of a practice is to be awake where we are. So important to honour that sense of practice over time, transformation over time. But the best way to honour it actually is looking back and seeing how, oh yeah, it works. If you look back over the last weeks or months or years of your practice, you must be able to see that it works. If you can't, you shouldn't have bothered coming today, right? Like, if it hasn't been of any use to you, why are you still doing it? So, yeah. And you might also notice, though, in looking back like that, that a student sent me a note recently in recognition of this. It was very beautiful. And she said, here is not at all where I thought there would be. Here is not at all where I thought there would be. Beautiful. I think that's always true. Right? You think what's freed up in you over the last, through your life. Whether you think actually about your practice or pretty much any other trajectory in life. We couldn't, go back 10 years. Would you have predicted this exactly? The shape of your inner life, maybe your outer life as well. Sometimes outer life can appear more predictable. This is my relationship and I'm staying with it. This is my profession and I'm staying with it. This is my home and I'm staying with it. Maybe, And yet, relationships come apart. Homes burn down. I know 2 people whose homes burned down this week. And so, on the one hand, we see, things move and transform over time. And they move and transform most effectively when we have some intention in that. That's what a dharma practice is, right? Actually engaging with the intention to transform, not just to transform haphazardly, being pushed around by circumstance, but actually to engage with the transformation, to follow the transformation, to study the transformation, to optimize the transformation, to actually evolve consciously. The first bits of evolution are rather unconscious. I'm not sure how we got from amoebas to humans, but there's not a lot of deciding in it. But at some point, when one starts to really engage with consciousness, the evolution becomes more of a conscious process. And so we look back and see that at work, but it's not so helpful to look forward. And we tend to do the opposite. Oh, where will my practice lead me? Where could my practice lead me? Where should my practice lead me? Where do I want my practice to lead me? And then we have some spiritual ideal of myself as all lovely, perfect, and enlightened, and compassionate, and wise. And then we come back and it's not so helpful to do that measuring forward, because here will never be where you think there is going to be. Right? The way things free up is quite literally unimaginable. You can't imagine. We imagine within the sphere of our already met experience. An example I give for that, it's like a fruit. If I brought some fruit that nobody had ever tasted, and I described it to you, right, what it tastes like, and you're trying to imagine, the imagination would be, you just can't do it. You can't imagine what one hasn't tasted. Right? I say, it's a bit like peach and a bit like apricot and a bit like mango. You imagine. No. But then if I handed out pieces, it only becomes clear in the tasting. Dharma practice is like that. We engage rather than imagining where we could be or should be, how our practice could or should be unfolding. It's the invitation to keep tasting, to taste where we are, to taste the awakeness that's already here. Do you have any doubts about the awakeness that's already here? Would anyone be bold enough to say that they're not awake right now? Could you ever say, could anybody ever, anywhere, ever say, I'm not awake? Right? How could you say, I'm not awake? How could the impulse arise? It's so interesting. All this emphasis on awakening or enlightenment, liberation. Right? And the word the Buddha used, very clearly, Buddha. Buddha means awake. Buddha means one who's awake. Buddhism means awakeism. And yet, hello, here we are. Already awake. Already awake. If any moment in which there's experience, there's awakeness. No awakeness, no experience. When you're really, really, really not at all awake, fast asleep, no experience. If there is experience, even in dream life, if there's enough to recognize in the moment that there's a dream taking place, it's because there's some awakeness. So the ground of our day is to abandon everything. All of the coulds and shoulds and the trajectories, and just to kind of to honor the awakeness that's already here. Whatever your sense of it, however tangible or intangible it might seem, however much the tendency might be to go and try to conceptualize awakeness. Oh, yeah, how awake am I? Rather than, and then do we just keep coming back to being awake where we are, in a sense that's kind of immediate and grounded and simple. And the best way to be immediate and grounded and simple is through just really recognizing again and again the natural, embodied nature of our experience, of our consciousness, of awakeness. Right? Just the way in which, there are senses. Right now, there's seeing, there's hearing, there's sensing. There's an aliveness in our cells, in our consciousness, in our sense organs. There's an aliveness that we take so much for granted because, of course there's aliveness. Right? There are all these beings, we're all alive. So what? But to come into this aliveness that we don't control. Right? Try to not be awake right now. Try to just switch off consciousness. Right? You can't do it. There's aliveness that we can't control. This aliveness which in our experience is beginningless and endless and timeless. We said, no, it began X number of years ago when I was born, or maybe a bit before, or maybe a bit after, etc. But the experience of awakeness isn't time-bound. You don't remember the light going on. And neither can we anticipate nor imagine the beginningness of awareness remains mysterious. And so does the ending of awareness. Right? Whatever our beliefs are about death and about anything that might happen after death. The very animating principle of our lives, this aliveness, this awakeness, is always and only here. And fully available here. So what good fortune that we're here, as if we could be anywhere else.